Welcome back to another episode of Sex, Drugs, and Soul. I have Love on here today. It's going to be a DP, a double priestess playground. She coined the term. I can't take credit for it. I just loved it when we were there. I was like, a DP, double priestess, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just before we hopped on, we were talking about different parts of ourselves that we were kind of wrangling with. You had mentioned playfulness. I had mentioned my hillbilly outlawness, which I didn't even, consciously realize that I was kind of had not fully embraced. So I'd love to maybe chat about some authenticity.
Yeah.
To start off.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. That's been, I think, the name of the game for me for a while. And those parts of ourselves, it's like the golden shadow, I think kind of can be one way that I've heard people talk about. I feel like I've heard maybe even Leola, but some chatting about our that thing that we keep a shadow, but it really can be golden, we're the ones hiding it. So yeah. And for me it's like I'm so goofy. And it's like this is the thing that we keep hidden is the thing that helps us resonate with others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so fresh. And I'm like, Outlaw Women by Hank Williams has been my anthem the last few days.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think I was just so ashamed of where I come from. And then I had taken a microdose and this past weekend, and I was listening to the ocean, and I was looking at some pictures and videos and texts from my friend that had died in February. And he's like, something's like, I can't wait to catch up in that 903 voice. And I was like, I do have that 903 voice. And then I was like, and I do have an uncle that's younger than me, and a great grandma with 12 toes, and a moonshining, gambling, dice weighted grandpa.
Wow.
And there's more, like peeing in a bucket growing up.
Yeah.
And so it was like this, and so I turned on Outlaw Women. I was just dancing. I was like, and just it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna own my country hillbilly outlawness. And it's just been really very healing, and I didn't even realize that it was something that was back there in the golden shadow, which I love that term. I just don't know much about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really either, but it just is what rang true to me. It's actually the first time that I've really put a pin associated with something to be able to make it, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, for me, it's I've always been the joie de vivre. And so that part of it felt good to me, but also to be taken seriously. I like to say sincere. I don't know who I learned that from, be sincere, to take sincerely. And because I don't resonate with serious.
Me either.
Although when I get into my craft and the work that I do, and then it's I take on this other form that's very crone energy and mother, but it always, I bring in the play. I'm just oh my gosh, water, you're so great. And I think it's just it's my natural state. And I do believe that I walk into these spaces with a lot of high caliber people and work with executives and people that are holding a lot, and thinking that I have to be something else to be in that space. But what's really is my essence of who I am in that space with those people is healing for them. Just the presence of being that delightful, childlike, playful, sometimes just who you are in the moment. The hillbilly that's just free who I am. Yellowstone, they love that shit. It's because it's an opportunity, it's an invitation for it's almost, it's settling to the nervous system when someone else is so comfortable, or it could be poking, because when you're not, you're just
oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's realizing the more I'm fully me, then my phone just dinged.
We're just going to take that as spirit confirmation. Collect snaps in the background.
Yeah, just it's the radiance is that full expression of self, because we get into relationships and we want to you know, impress or be what we think they want us to be. Oh my God, I just want to teach that lesson so early because it's transformative for everybody.
Yeah, it's a permission slip.
Yeah.
And like to me, it's like if they're in that corporate-y kind of more butthole clenching environment,
Yeah.
the thing they need most is that playfulness and that permission to be and play. And I think it's so important. Was doing some reflection the other day, and I was like, you know what? I felt a lot older as a kid growing up. You know, the big T, little T's, or felt like an old soul. And so for me, as I get older, it's a return to that playfulness. And I love the distinction that you made of landing sincerely or making it sincere and black versus like serious.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't want to be serious.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And we can't, I think, and just like, if I'm going to be taken seriously as a healer, as like you're like as to hold you in a container that's like intense energy and we're moving a lot, like I felt that I had to walk the way they see these other, you know, not consciously. I didn't actually ever try to be that because I
Yes.
just can't. But thinking like, oh, they would choose that because it looks more like
Aesthetically pleasing or
yeah,
something. Or...
like, oh, you know, she definitely frolics with the earth because she doesn't wear makeup and she this, you know, or she's just very slow. And I'm just not that, but I will suck some demons out of you and it's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. It's not
Suck some demons out of you. I love it. That reminds me of my therapist / guide that I found, or ex-therapist. We're no longer in that container or capacity anymore. But she told me, she's like, get a black obsidian yoni egg. She's like, it'll get rid of any of that devil dick energy.
Yes.
I was like, yes, thank God.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of what you were saying. A friend of mine from South Africa, she's like, calls herself a priestess with a pimp limp. Because she had seen like, you know, like the Avalon or maybe Glastonbury, you know, whimsical, which is beautiful and like all that too. But there's like so many different variants and expressions of the priestess that I think is beautiful too.
Yeah.
Hillbilly priestess, playful priestess.
And I'm like, I'm not going to be the like dominatrix in the same way that like a girlfriend I know would be. Like, I don't come with that energy and I don't try. But I probably used to definitely try.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. To just, oh,
am I
Lord.
living up to what I'm perceiving as what their expectations are? They haven't necessarily communicated that, but yeah, a woman on the plane ride back from Mexico gave me a really powerful compliment, especially because it came from a woman. Because I feel like there can be like that, you know, poking or something too. So I'd gone down there and worn like some sweatpants, but it was so sweaty on that first fucking flight that I was like, there's no way I'm putting those back on. And so I was like, fuck it. I'm just wearing my cutoffs and a shirt and my Vans. And I'll have my sweater just in case I get cold. Cause lo and behold, that one will probably be cold. And I sit down, I was sending some voice memos to Liv. And, and then she goes, can I ask how old you are? Because you look 19, but you're speaking like a 45-year-old CEO. I was like, thank you. I need to go back and listen to those voice memos and see what I was saying.
Yes.
But I was like, oh, I'm like, just like sat with that and let it land for a minute. I'm like, I'll receive that.
Yeah.
But I really did go back and listen to the voice memos. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful compliment.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to take that. And I just told her, I was like, you know, I kind of think that I grew up with a lot of big T, little T. I think of it's a reflection of my innards and orgasms and sunscreen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Orgasms.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no healing.
Yeah.
Which speaking of, how did you find yourself, love, in this priestess, tantric, sacred sexuality, sensuality space? Like, how did you get the journey rocking in it?
You know, it's so funny. Before my husband passed away, I had a reading from someone and she told me her name is going to come to me. She works alongside of like sex workers and she, gosh, I'll find her name. But she told me, she's like, you're a galactic cat
Hmm.
and your sexuality is your superpower.
Mm.
She didn't know, like, well, this is gonna get woo woo, but like the Lyran beings are like the cat beings, and they're the ones who like live and just like do everything, right? And so she told me that, but meanwhile, I'm in a marriage that is with like a lot of relapse and a lot of, and I'm just like, okay,
Mm.
I wasn't as fully at my capacity, and then my husband passed away and I went on my journey to the
Mm.
underworld with
Mm.
nature and out and in and around, and then I landed in Austin.
Mm.
And I had a client that, and I was doing energy work, Reiki, and readings, just
Mhm.
intuitive readings, the work that I do, and non-sexual. And this man that I worked with, he's in the Tantra community. He just wanted a Reiki session. He's like, "What you do is Tantra." And I'm like, "What's
Mm.
that?" I didn't even know.
Mm.
And then I got on a call with someone about the Tantra Fest. This is like 3 years ago, and
Mhm.
to be an angel. And she said, "Well, what's
Oh.
Tantra to you?" And I was like, "Well, to me, like, being so like a sensory experience
Mm.
with the earth, knowing that my body, my form is the landing point of heaven and earth, to connect, to really, to like, to listen and to the feel so fully and be alive with God inside of me."
Mm.
And she was like, "Yeah, okay,
Like,
that's
ding, ding,
Tantra."
ding.
And and then I was dating a man
Mhm.
who he was poly and open, and I wasn't. I didn't know. In my life experience in Delaware when I was married, I had friends and they were all like kind of couple, they would
Mhm.
play and swap, and I was so curious, but our relationship wasn't at a stable place for that
Mhm.
experience. We both were like curious, but we didn't ever go there. Would have been bad timing. And so that had been in my thoughts, and I went to some parties with him, and I went to not just parties, but these were consciousness explorations. Like,
Mm.
this is
Mm.
going to rope labs and learning about shibari, but the healing art of it and the
Mhm.
healing of BDSM and tantra. And
Mhm.
then I met Rena Trevi, and
Mhm.
and I took her course for tantra exploration and
Oh,
BDSM.
I'm in the
Yeah.
tail end of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I love how she's bringing God, source, creator. She's
Mhm.
bringing in service and reverence to Kali Ma. And then I did her
Mm.
sacred touch, sensuality.
Mm.
And then Leola, I went to her
Mhm.
pleasure, her love immersion
Mm.
weekend,
Mm.
tantra love retreat. There's so many, and that was like, I'd been dating this man for a number of months. And I just like, I don't know if it would, when I do it, I just do it. I don't
Mm.
care.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm a little bit of a exhibition. I'm definitely exhibitionist, but it was just like, I'm going to go for it. And we were the
Yeah.
only couple that did every experience with other people.
Mm.
And I just like push my edges and push my
Mhm.
edges, and I would work with him. So I'm already doing shamanic energy work and medicine ceremonies. And then we're having this very expensive sexual relationship. And so I started doing like energy work while practicing, while intimate
Mm.
with him. And we
Mhm.
were doing sex magic, and I was moving energy, and I healed his balls. He was,
Mm.
he had a vasectomy, and he was like, "You
Mm.
can't, like, I'm sensitive here," as we discussed. And then, but at some point we did an intentional thing, and he's
Mm.
just never had pain again. I was
Wow.
like, "Oh, wow, okay." And so I'd already been working with men and women and healing the womb,
Mm.
healing energy, and then I just was like, "Oh, this has been done forever
Mhm.
and hidden." And it's
Mhm.
where I deeply resonate, is touch and pleasure. Like, do you remember, I don't know if you did this when you were like little girls, we would have sleepovers and we would tickle each other's
Oh,
back?
oh, girl, I went way more than tickling each
Yes.
other's back.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
We did it.
yeah, we were like, "Okay, you go for 5 minutes, I go for 5 minutes, like just playfully exploring and going down on one another. I mean, like, there's probably an element of sometimes I feel like, when things happen to you when you're young that like it's like what a hyper response or like an underactive response. There was that too,
Same.
but also like the exploring and finding of shower heads and like just feeling like this feels good. I don't know what this is, but like touching myself here in my private part areas, like whatever my parents were
Yeah.
probably calling it, at that time was I was just like, I felt like I had to keep it to myself. And then I'm like, no wonder I like the taboo so much now.
Yeah. So much. It all is so related because it's like it's self-exploration and God exploration
And
in
feeling
different forms.
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so healing, and I kind of like to think that part of the reason why Jesus or Yeshua was so powerful was because he had Mary Magdalene when doing the tantric practices,
100%.
and I'm like, it's kind of healed some of my religious wound or something as far as like having a self pleasure session with him, and I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have done like called in energy, like channeling God, creator, like different entity being, like different sources, representations, like my divine masculine partner and Jesus, and just like exploring myself in that way energetically, like letting my hands be the hands of God, you know? And that it's just like makes you very discerning when it comes to,
Oh,
because you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
my sisters and I have men. Listen up, because I want a PSA out
Yes.
there. The women are like doing so much soul work, and so are the men. So if you're not, step up, because their men are getting ready for their queen and their priestess, and the women are getting more and more powerful and connected, and like not. So because we're so connected and we're getting more and more powerful because we're connected and we're healing the sisterhood, and we're together and we're together, like you gotta really be in your fullness. Not like you have to be this and that, but really aligned with who you are.
Yeah.
Self-aware. Angel says self-actualized, and I love that.
Like in tune with what your
Self-possessed.
own like values, integrity, like what works for you and I may not be like what works for you, that kind of thing. Or like
Yeah.
what jives, and like all are okay,
Yeah.
and like beautiful expressions. I think that's a good marker to highlight.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I thought too. I struggled so long when, for me, like finding Tantra, I was like, okay, my spirituality practice is over here, and my sexuality and human desires and stuff are over here. And I felt very conflicted. I was like, I love both. So I was like, how do I meld the two? And finding Tantra, or like, I was like, oh, it just felt like such a homecoming, because I was like, oh, you mean all of this is spiritual? Like being a human, the more I've embraced like being a human and those desires, it's like the more spiritual life becomes. Like I've been feeling like I've been living in like synchronicity the last week. I'm just like, oh, ping, ping, ping. As far as like, since that awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to reference too some of my questions real quick.
I know I could keep going. I've
Oh,
got
keep
so
going
many
anywhere.
zoomies.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, I'm
my
like,
dog did too this morning. And I'm like, he's my mirror.
I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that.
Well, you mentioned the womb, and I know you posted something the other day about like the womb and throat connection, and it's been like, and I'm like, fuck, since these insights, and I have some I think ancestral grandmother healing going on simultaneously. But it's just been like all in this area, lower back. Like I was swimming with a friend. I was like, ugh, God, I just need to stretch. And like, and even just like naming like some of those things with you earlier, I was like, it feels good to express. Yeah, I would love for it to dive deeper into the womb, throat connection and voice.
It's newer to me. I know like the shape, when you look at the shape of the organs, like the throat, the larynx, like it looks the same, like on a image. And even I'm sure there's in nature things that look the same, right? And so the thing that heals our womb likely heals our throat. But I go back to what you talked about, like ancestrally,
Mm-hmm.
women's voice and women's sexuality.
Mm.
And I'm curious if, like, as you are a writer and you're speaking,
Mm-hmm.
if you now like map it to intentionally to
Mm.
be connected to the womb, like as I speak, I experience more pleasure and I heal, or as I'm healing my
Mm.
womb, like touching myself and exploring myself and going deep, I'm healing not only my womb, but
Mm-hmm.
all, like as I heal myself. And like one of the things that I love to do is just like kind of like just pull the energy in, and like feel
Mm-hmm.
into it and like just with breath, but not like a 1, 2, 3, 4 hold,
Mm.
kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but just
Yeah.
like, and like get kind of like primal, and you have to breathe. So you're like, and you're just
Mm.
expressing and moving and just letting whatever wants to move through
Yeah.
come out. But I feel like it matches, because our power and our power,
Mm.
women, our
Mm-hmm.
voice can be soothing. It can be
Mm-hmm.
impactful. It can be like the siren. There's so many ways in which like our voice,
Mm.
because we're the oracle, right? And our
Mm-hmm.
channel, our power, our wisdom comes from
Mm.
this space, because this is the wormhole, the gateway through all time and space. This is the dimension.
Oh.
This is where life
Yeah.
comes. And so, but these two are not, that's like
Mm.
stifling us. And it's
Mm.
like, really, if I allowed myself, it could make me emotional. Life
Mm.
comes through this, and we are forced to
Mm.
shut it down. Oof.
Mm.
And this expression,
Mm.
and it's all whatever fear, like stories of page. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
We're here to rise up
Yeah, I
and
feel
connect
that.
and use our voice and connect and be in our pleasure, and we're doing it.
Mhm.
And that's when you're seeing a lot of transformation. But I think what I love about Tantra
Mhm.
is the comfortability with like pain turning into pleasure,
Mhm, the alchemy.
the alchemy of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the acceptance of being fully in our pleasure allows us to be fully in our other emotions as well, more deeply, because
Mhm.
we can be that big. So we can be that big, expressive in all ways. And I've noticed people, yes, there's like leaky and there's not, and blah, blah, there's different ranges, but when you're grounded in the earth and when you're connected to
Mm.
spirit and the heart and in your pleasure to do like all, like it's go
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, I feel that. Like I recently had a kind of a womb intention setting. Like we grounded. I had my hand on my womb, but I was also like reaching up to
Mm.
the sky to grab like the intentions that I have for going forward into this women's retreat next week. And they told me to come up with three, and was like, but I don't really like anyone ever telling me what to do. So I got like four or five.
Yes, there you
I'm
go.
like, and the first one was uncensored. The second one was Sacred Rebel. The
Mm.
third was Prosperity, and then Surrender. And then crafting an image, and I definitely did not take this fucking image into the like it came through in the moment, because I was like, I would have not like put that
Yeah.
together. I mean, I love all those elements, but no.
Yeah.
And it was this woman with like long dark hair riding on a wolf with Isis wings and like some
Damn.
badass, like dark, like sexy clothes. I was like, fuck yeah. So now some of my friends are like in a design competition to get because I want to cover up this tattoo
Yeah.
and like get that. But I'm like, I love that.
Mm.
So we'll see how that goes. But, and like you said something that about the voice and womb. It's like even since then, I feel like there's been like a like a expression of more, or just like different facets. And then I remember after my first tantric retreat, like Ista, I went, and then it seemed like the level of resonance in my voice, like my voice dropped. Like I was
Mm.
talking maybe higher up here, and then it just like kind of came more grounded or into my being after like going through so many of those different rituals and emotional release techniques. And because I had written that book, I had so many mental understandings, but I didn't have the like physical embodiment to couple it, or like the felt experience. And so it's like that. And then like from then to today. It's like, oh, okay. I was trying to like patience has been a lesson of mine that I've signed up to learn.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want this thing out like fucking yesterday.
Yeah.
I know the healing power that it has. But it's also like in a meeting. And also, I will say, I actually recorded it here at Record ATX, the audiobook version.
Uh-huh.
And there was such a different level of landing or healing or growth
Ooh, yeah.
from speaking it. And I would read it over sometimes and and I'd have like emotional releases, or sometimes even when I was writing it, typing and or sometimes I'm like, that doesn't even sound like me. That came from somewhere else, or like a higher self, or like some kind of angel or God. I don't know. And then but speaking it out was just like also a cathartic release, and like the alchemy of the pain and using art and creativity and expression for that. It was just like, fuck, yeah.
I want to talk more like about your book, because I have 3 books in Reedsy that are almost finished. Part of what I'm doing my journey to go away next week is like I'm gonna do writing. Like
Yes.
it's just like writing retreat. So that, and I think it's been like waiting to be finished because I wanted to grow, but I'm also in the middle. But I like that I'm in the middle. Who writes in the middle of their experience?
Your future scripting kind of,
right?
Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really powerful to me. I was curious if in writing your book and in speaking, if that's helped you. I imagine that it has, has helped you opened up and become more free in your work and what you do.
Oh man, like, dude. I thought that I set out to write it for other people.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, it's like maybe a love letter to my younger self, but also those people in like so much loss, pain, or chaos, which I was still at in that fucking moment. But it was like, very much so. And then I had a guide and a coach, like my editor and Mary Nelligan, incredible. But she would prompt questions. I would send her 20 pages at a time, and she would prompt questions in the side. And because I had such like a people pleasing kick, I didn't know how I had thought or like on certain things. So she would prompt questions, and then I would go and journal and be like, okay, this is how I feel about this today. Because it can shift and evolve. And there's things in there that have shifted and evolved versus like where I'm at today.
Oh, cool. Imagine like another book where it's like the same, but then you cross off things. And in the captions, you're like writing different stuff.
Oh,
like,
that's
this is what I learned.
cool. Like red line,
like
and then like
add
a
new piece
note.
of paper. Yeah.
Add poetry.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I love that idea. And so, yeah, it very much like, and then also, I thought I was like going to be just done with like some of the sexuality or sensuality, being in that space. And actually,
Sure.
yeah. And then it was actually temporary. I mean, initially I thought it was going to be called the scenic route home, because that's what it felt like, taking the scenic route to come home to myself. And it was like a nod to my dad, who had said how important the scenic route is versus like because I was like, why aren't we on the main highway? And so, but then I was in a titling workshop, and they're like, tell us about it. Well, I was like, it's like the sex and then the drugs and then the tapping into the soul part. They're like, that's your title.
Yeah.
Like, oh, crunchy, because that good girl conditioning.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, God. Like, so like leading up to it, I felt all the things like wanting to puke and vomit and like shedding of skin. And I was like, oh.
I feel it in my body.
Yeah. And then just keeping at it. I'm like, nope, the why is bigger. Like, I think the intention before. And there's been moments where I'm like, I gotta take a step back, reassess. Because I had a video go like semi-viral once, and I was like, it felt like a public shaming. And then I was also like, well, they're not doing anything that I haven't probably called or questioned myself with. Like, why do I care so much? And then so just like, then I was like, no, my mission to go forward, like gas pedal, full throttle with some pit stops. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of went off on a little tangent with it.
Well, that's because I asked. Because